Hey guys, Troy Casey, Certified Health Nut, Santa Monica, California. I'm here with the great Joel Salatin. I first met Joel Salatin on Food Inc., a movie that was about 10 or 15 years old. It goes through the history of America and kind of what we're eating, and which I think is a very important thing. In an effort to bring you more information on health and consciousness underneath the umbrella of that is everything. And so I think food is very important. I think the future of food, I think what we're doing as a species on this planet, I'm here to upgrade all systems and raise human consciousness. And the agriculture system the food system is one system that requires upgrading, in my humble opinion. So I brought the world's foremost expert, Joel Salatin from Polyface Farms. Joel, welcome to the show, and thanks for being on.
Thank you, Troy. It's a real delight and a pleasure to be with you. It's great. So our family farms here in Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, and we came in 1961 and bought this. I was just 4 years old then. I wasn't in charge, and bought this kind of gullied rock pile in the area, and started rejuvenating it, planting trees, learning about grass farming and all that stuff. And so today we service about 5,000 families, and at least before COVID, about 50 restaurants. I'm not sure how many will survive here at the end of it, but we produce salad bar beef, which is, grass finished beef. We call it salad bar beef to indicate the diversity of the salad that they're eating. Pastured poultry, not pasteurized, but pastured poultry. And that's broilers, turkeys, and eggs, and ducks, and lamb, and pork. We call it pigerator pork, and even rabbits, and and then we have a lot of forests. So we also have a sawmill and do a lot of forestry products as well.
Tell us a little bit what's happened since Food Inc. Let's talk about that movie. You were involved in it. You got on the world stage a little bit grander, and explain the process about that. How you felt about the film. How you felt food was portrayed in that.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's been about 10 years ago, and for sure it was life is not just a linear thing. It's a kind of a sawtooth, steps of sawtooth. And so for us, this was definitely a step, a vertical step in our sawtooth of trajectory, and certainly vaulted us onto a much bigger stage. And of course, the reason that occurred was because we've been featured in Michael Pollan's bestseller, Omnivore's Dilemma, which was, of course, then on the heels of Eric Schlosser's Fast Food Nation. And so there was definitely a growing awareness at that time about the dubious practices of the industrial food system. And so this was just a great stage to present. In general, the movie was shockingly negative. I mean, people went out just in shock. Oh no, I've been eating this stuff. And so fortunately we were the good guys. But as documentaries go, it was heavy on the negative shock, and generally light, I think, on the positive. Mm-hmm. And but was the movie great? Absolutely. I mean, it touched a lot of people, and I think historically we will look back and realize that movie was it was a benchmark. It was one of these sawtooth in our cultural awareness of the the bad practices of the opaque industrial food system. And so, for our business, it was a big help. I mean, we had new customers, and people would come in and say, I threw out everything in my pantry and I'm going to get new stuff. And I don't know how many people it stuck with, but certainly it was as they say, it was a thing.
So how did that happen with your business? So it was a thing. Did your business must have went up?
Yeah.
Did it plateau? Did it go down? Are people more aware,
Yeah.
less aware now?
Oh,
Where was
yeah,
everybody at?
great. So yeah, so I appreciate you asking that question because yes, business did go up, but then it plateaued because the other thing that movie did, it brought so much awareness in the culture that the next thing we knew, Walmart was carrying organics. And I can tell you as a brand name farmer in this sector that the day Walmart became the largest vendor of organics in the world, that was a game changer for farmers markets and small farms like us that were direct marketing in their locale. And so our sales plateaued, and in fact, we were struggling for viability as the big supermarkets took in organics, and as industrial organics took over organics. And so there's been a tremendous amount of compromise and industrial persona within the organic movement since. And so what's exciting now is that the pandemic has, the emperor has no clothes, and it has stripped that part off, and the whole industrial thing off, whether it's organic, inorganic, or otherwise. And so here we are riding high again. The joke around here is that if we'd have known the pandemic was such a great marketing strategy for local small farms, we'd have ordered up the pandemic 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm in the organic superfood business. I've been in business with David Sandoval. I don't know if you know him. It's a Compton-based company. We grow in volcanic ash beds in Utah. We've been doing it for 27 years, and my business tripled. So people are looking for health. They're looking for real food. They understand GMOs a little bit about glyphosate, and they're searching out the real deal. So business is booming for me.
Yeah, well, the other thing that happened, of course, during this very same time was the growth of Amazon and the whole efficiency of door-to-door distribution. And 30 years ago, there was no way that a place like us could compete, with the high quality stuff in a supermarket on a price basis. But what's happened over the last 10 years is that the cost of maintaining a bricks and mortar interface, a public bricks and mortar interface, including all the liability insurance to make sure you have that you don't have a banana peel on a floor, proper fluorescent lighting, clean bathrooms, the snow wiped off of the curb if there's a snow, all of those litigious consumer oriented liabilities, plus the bricks and mortar and the cashier and all that cost has gone up, while the cost of UPS, Amazon, FedEx, and distribution has gone down. And so we have a drop on this side, a rise on this side, and so now the actual ability to ship, the ability to compete at scale with door-to-door distribution, with the brick and mortar interface, is profoundly changed, and it's a brand new opportunity. So, where we were unable to access that market before, now we're actually able to access it on a price competitive basis. It's pretty cool.
That's great. So let's promote your business a little bit. I know that you're online. You do the farmers markets locally. I think people come to you as well. And do you do these food co-ops where people from Florida and California come and get your stuff from the trucks and drive them out?
Yeah. So our marketing. So we don't do any farmers markets. We've just found farmers markets to be a very inefficient interface. It's more a social club. And listen, I'm all about social.
I agree. I agree.
I like social. but we have just found that that they tend to not be the place where people really buy groceries. They go to walk the dog and buy a little can of pickled peppers with a purple ribbon on it, and chalk down, oh look, I've participated in the local food system, and it's guilt assuagement and that sort of thing. So so we don't do any farmers markets. What we do is we have a store here at the farm. We also distribute here within 4 miles of the farm. We have about 30 urban neighborhood drop points that we service every month, and we service those, about 4,000 families there. And then we also now ship nationwide, and that has been just since July 4th last year. We've just gone past our 1-year anniversary of shipping nationwide. And again, that has been simply because the whole logistics of shipping has become so so possible. And then we also sell, like I said, we service about 50 restaurants. A handful of those are still functioning and doing okay. But as you can imagine, most of the restaurants that we serve, in fact, I don't know of any of them that have a drive-in window. And so in this whole pandemic with the rules, everybody that has a drive-in window has had
they're essential
sales. Yeah. And the ones that don't have a drive-in window have pretty much been put out of business. And that's a real tragedy, because obviously, the ones that have a drive-in window tend to be junkier food than the ones that are in-house dining. And so, I'm on a bit of a tear to try to create a clean fast food that would compete with McDonald's and Burger King and be the true, real deal. There's no reason why we can't do it. It's just nobody's done it yet. And we need to be able to do that. But
is your team working specifically on that business model, or?
Yes, we have been, and we don't have the person yet, but we have talked to a lot of people. We deal with a lot of chefs. There are a lot of chefs out of work right now, and so we feel like this is a golden opportunity to launch something, especially when we're having a national conversation about food security and immunological function. The problem with this whole thing, I'm waiting for the day when somebody pushes Anthony Fauci aside and says, just a minute, sir, could I take the microphone, and says, okay, America, we're going to have 1 week of building our microbiome through our immunological function. So here's what we're going to do. We got a recipe here. The recipe is going to be that for a week, we're not going to eat sugary soft drinks. For a week, we're not going to eat junk food, including, fast food and McDonald's. We're going to substitute that with in-home cooking and whole foods that we actually use our techno-glitzy gadgetized kitchens to fix. And we're going to sleep for 8.5 hours a night. And we're going to drink 3 quarts of water a day. We're going to hydrate. And to top it off, we're going to forgive everybody we hate.
God.
That's a very simple recipe.
That's the recipe we got in my new book.
Yeah, man. Look at that. That's great. Yeah.
So,
I failed to mention we're also going to exercise and get outside and get at least an hour of vitamin D every day. And,
oh my God, that's the cure for everything.
So there's about six simple points for an immunological, a hyper-immunological recipe, but nobody, the thing is, Troy, nobody in officialdom it dares to say anything like this. All they're looking for is a vaccine. We just need the vaccine. If we just get the vaccine. And so some of us are realizing that way better than a vaccine is an actually really hyper-functional immune system. Let's put our attention on that. And that's something we can do starting right now. We don't have to wait for the pharmaceutical industry to develop a vaccine.
Okay, so let's go into this, Joel, because this is your wheelhouse. Food is medicine, in my humble opinion, according to
Yes.
Hippocrates, the father of modern day medicine, said, "Let thy food be thy medicine." A couple things that I want to get into, and then I really want to let you loose on your expertise. You can bust into the science, whatever you want. You mentioned grass farming. Can you explain a little bit of that? And are you friends with Alan Savory and the Savory Institute? Are you aligned with that philosophy? Let's get into a little bit of the soil science, what makes up the gut microbiome, how it's all connected to the human being.
Sure.
Explain grass farming a little bit.
Sure, that's great. Thank you. Now, absolutely, Alan Savory is one of my mentors. I consider him one of my mentors, absolutely. And so, what he has done is he has proven the efficacy of a perennial grass-based agriculture. You see, the problem is that humans have been chasing the grain as a holy grail for a long time. And I don't want to demonize grain. I'm just wanting to suggest that that in our modern mechanistic time, grain was always very, very expensive. I mean, when you have to use a sharp stick behind an ox, you can't till up very much ground in a day. Now, with modern machinery, we've never been able to tear up so much. But what we see in nature, the template of nature is the way soil is built is not with tillage and chemical fertilizer. It's built with perennial forages pruned by herbivores that are chased by predators. And so the herbivores don't stay in one spot. They move around. And so they prune over here today, they prune over there tomorrow, they prune over there next month. And so you've got this beautiful choreographic ballet in these grasslands, and the most fertile soils on the planet are not under forests or bushes. They're under grasslands with herbivores that are moving around on them. The problem is that we humans, we love to be sedentary, and so as we have divvied this land up into little, personal properties, we've broken down these historic, massive migrations of bison or, caribou or whatever it was, but mainly in the U.S. at least, the big migrations were bison, and we've broken those up, and we put their counterpart, the cow, in a field. We don't move her around, and then to make her grow way faster, because we think fatter, faster, bigger, cheaper is always good. And we know that it's not good. Fatter, faster, bigger, cheaper is a recipe for disaster, actually, on a lot of things. I mean, the average
fatter, bigger seems like it would go right into the human being. Direct symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely. I mean, the average NFL football player is dead at 57. I mean, when your neck is bigger than your head, you're a freak, and nature weeds you out. So the whole idea of animals confined in a factory farm in a segregated place, living in their toilet, eating in their toilet, breathing their toilet with fecal particulate, while their food is raised somewhere else with fertilizer based from petroleum, pumped from somewhere else. You have an extremely segregated system rather than an integrated system. What I'm trying to get at is this fundamental. As you back up the camera, what you have is an incredibly bifurcated, segregated system rather than this beautiful symbiotic, integrated, complex relational system like nature brings to us. And so what happens when you do that on a large scale is you take every blessing that, the waste of one becomes the input for the next cycle, and the waste of that one becomes the input, and you have these beautiful synergistic cycles of abundance through the system. What you have instead now is instead of blessings, you have liabilities of breakdown. You have breakdown in energy flow, pathogen, toxicity, hydration, soil. You have breakdowns all the way along the pathway, and that's essentially what we've come to. So at our farm, rather than confining animals in houses, we actually use high-tech electric fencing to be able to move the animals around and actually link them up in historic progression. So, for example, we have egg mobiles that with layers, chickens in them, that follow the cows to mimic the egret on the rhino's nose. The birds that follow the herbivores, the chickens scratch through the cow patties, eat out the fly dung, eat out the fly maggots, and sanitize. They eat the crickets and the grasshoppers that are now exposed from the animals that the herbivores that have grazed. And and so you have this, so they act as a biological sanitizer behind the herbivores. And so, you know, that's so every day we move the herd of cows, we move them to another paddock, and then, you know, we bring the egg mobiles in behind them. You know, we make compost. You're probably familiar with these great big, you know, windrow compost piles and these big compost turners. Well, we use pigs to do all that. And so when we're feeding hay, we feed under an awning to protect the manure and urine from leaching and vaporization. We use carbon, we call it a carbonaceous diaper, to soak up all that manure and urine. We add corn to it. The corn in that bedding ferments because the cows are trumping out the oxygen, and it's a great big fermented diaper, fermented bedding pack. And then when the cows come out in the spring, we put in the pigs. The pigs seek the fermented corn, and in doing so, they rotate it, inject oxygen, move it from anaerobic to aerobic. We have this beautiful aerobic compost that the pigs have stirred and turned, and then we spread that on the fields as fertilizer. So everything is a carbon economy. It's a carbon economy in situ, using the forestal, open, and riparian environments as symbiotic edge to create a diversified abundance, which is what nature intended anyway.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's like a low-tech, high-tech miracle.
Yeah. Well, it is. You know, so often people, you talk about farming, and the mentality is that nature is some sort of a reluctant partner that we have to, you know, get in some sort of a half Nelson. I'm gonna make you do this, and I'm gonna, you know, it's a very kind of a militant, you know, dominant kind of thing, exploitive, conquistador mentality. And our position is, no, nature's actually a benevolent lover that just wants to be caressed in the right places. That's a very different mentality.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, you know, big part of my philosophy over here at Certified Health Nut is nature heals everything. So,
Right.
And well, I have in my addendum, my caveat to that, Joel, is death is a part of life. And oftentimes we forget that. And then, of course, during coronavirus times, that's used against us.
Well, it is, and the fact is that the cycle of death, let's start with life, death, decomposition, regeneration, life, death, decomposition, regeneration. I mean, that's the ecological foundation. And I mean, just look at a compost pile. A compost pile is essentially taking living material, it dies, and then it decomposes with microbes that eat that up and transform it into a regenerated released new component that then offers life again. So it's a, you know, it's a wonderful cycle, and when we appreciate that cycle, we can, you know, we can viscerally step into it at any time, and it's a, you know, it's a beautiful thing. And that cycle should not be ugly. It should not be repugnant. It should actually be beautiful. We think that a good farm should be aesthetically and aromatically, sensually romantic. That's an indicator of good stewardship.
So do you have herbs and lavender and all that stuff growing everywhere, and different types of plants? And
so we have a tremendous variety of plants in the fields, because we essentially haven't planted a seed in 60 years. And so what happens is, as you create conducive environments, as you change the environment for the habitat, if you will. I mean, think about this. Think of the wisdom of a seed. I mean, just take let's take a red clover. Red clover is a good one. We know that red clover seed will stay viable but dormant for over 1,000 years. Can you imagine?
Wow.
So here we've got a red clover seed. It falls to the ground in the fall of 2019. 2019, it falls to the ground. And in the spring of 2020, that seed says, "No, I don't think I'm going to sprout this year. I'm going to take a year off." The spring of 2021 rolls around. "Nah, I don't think I will." I mean, you see where I'm going with this. 2022, 2023, and it goes all the way to a century, 100 years from now. "Nah, I think I'll wait." It goes another century from now. And year 923, that seed decides, "This is the spring. This is the year. I'm going to germinate. I'm going to sprout." I mean, think of the embedded wisdom in that seed, in that life, to sit there dormant until a habitat says, "It's okay, you can come out now." And so on our farm, what we have seen is just a proliferation over the time we've been here, and it continues to increase, of diversity in the landscape. I mean things from wild elderberries to summer annuals, to some grasses that we don't even know the names of, to some what would be called weeds, but the cows like them, and all sorts of different blossoms. And so you just get this incredible diversity. And we humans, when you have that a level of diversity in your forage, in your farm, as the animals, the chickens, the pigs, the cows, as they eat that diversified plant life, when we eat those animals, we vicariously tap into that diversified diet that's in the egg or the meat or the liver or whatever that we eat. And so when you compare that, for example, to the simplicity, the simplicity of the standard American diet, or the diet of feedlot finished animals, factory animals that are just a couple of things, corn, soybeans, maybe a small grain, and that's about it. That's an incredibly simplistic diet. Well, it does not then offer the complexity to our microbiome that our microbiome wants. Our microbiome has some little microbe that says, "I would like a T-bone steak from an animal that has eaten chicory," for example. And if
which is a prebiotic. Most people don't know that.
Yes. All right. So if an animal has never had access to a chicory, that microbe is going to be disappointed and eventually get lethargic and actually leave the system. And so what's happened is our human gut, our microbiome that is supposed to have all of this complexity to it, becomes both lethargic, anemic, and less diversified over time, which then makes it more susceptible to things from left field like COVID-19. That, oh no, what's that? We don't have enough microbiome with enough diversified experience to handle, a left field fly ball. If all we've been practicing on is center field grounders, and suddenly a left field fly ball comes in, suddenly we don't have the experience level to deal with it.
So what's coming to me intuitively, Joel, is this is a resilient intelligence that we're taking inside of us and creating resilient intelligence within inside of us.
Yes, that is correct. When I go out in the garden, I pick a carrot. I pull a carrot up. I don't sit there and go and clean it and put chlorine on it to sterilize it. I just kind of wipe it on my pants a little bit, and there's still some dirt hanging on the roots, I eat that carrot, and I have these visions, right? These visions of these dirt, these soil microbes going down and becoming, saying hi to my internal gut microbiome, and I can just see them saying, "Hi, cousin, it's been a long time since I've seen you," and you've got all this drama going on down inside because you've actually connected, connected with our ecological womb.
Yeah, I worked in the Amazon with an herbal company down there, and I used to take these very powerful wild herbs into my body. I still do a little bit. But I felt that was a high level of intelligence I was taking into my body on a regular and constant basis for about 10 years, taking things into my body that my body had never seen. And lo and behold, the frequency and vibration of my consciousness, I had a Kundalini awakening. I had 3 very powerful ones. One was with meditation. Another one was with these herbs from the Amazon. And then, of course, working with the shamans as well. It raised my intelligence level. I was basically just your average American trying to chase paper, not knowing who I was in the modeling industry, in the entertainment industry, going from one thing to the next, just chasing paper. I didn't have it. I didn't have my mission and vision that's very intact and clear right now in place. And so taking plants in raised my consciousness. Eating a super diverse meal diet, I rotate everything. I'm a student of Paul Chek, who I know you've shared podcast time with, and super intelligent guy. So I've been rotating everything for the past 10 years. Did 10 years of Amazonian plants, and I got smarter. I felt it. And
well, that's wonderful. Think about it. This is just it's such an intuitive thing to think about. If we were trying to make a dumb toxin friendly let's say we had an evil intent, and we established a committee and said, let's make a food system that is that could be as bad as it could possibly be. Well, here's what we would do. We would I'll just talk about animals since I'm an animal guy. We would say, well, let's only grow one animal on a farm. We're not gonna have a bunch of animals on a farm. We're gonna have one. In fact, we're even gonna say that wildlife is a liability, and we're gonna put all those animals in one crowded place, without sunshine, without exercise, without fresh air, one crowded place, and we're gonna give them a very simple diet, and because they're all crowded. And they're living in their own toilet, well, that'll let the pathogens really proliferate because there'll always be a host animal, close by. And you see where I'm going with this. What I'm just describing is modern industrial factory farming. You could not design a better system to host and proliferate toxicity, pathogenicity, and poor health, lethargy, poor muscular structure, poor social structure. There's no place for them to express their pigness or their chickeness or their cowness. And so is it any stretch to think when we eat an animal that hasn't been able to exercise, that has lived in its own toilet all its life, that has been propped up with antibiotics, that has never been able to express its individuality, is there any reason why we would think that we can that can offer us full vibrancy? No, what I want is a pig that can express its pigness, and it can go root up some roots if it wants, and it can go lie down and chill out if it wants, and it can run around and be in the sun or the shade and make choices. That's the kind of thing, that's the kind of habitat that is what I would like to live in as a human. And if we don't offer that kind of habitat that recognizes the pigness of pigs and chickenness of chickens and tomatoness of tomatoes, is it any stretch to realize why we can't recognize the Troyness of Troy, the Joelness of Joel, the Tomness of Tom. I mean, those are hand in glove with recognizing the pigness of pigs, the cowness of cows, and the tomatoness of tomatoes. What we've done in our vegetables for the last 30 years is the only criteria for cultivars for selecting varieties is it shelf stable and can it travel? And when the only question on a tomato is not nutrition, not taste, not any kind of quality, but rather can it ship 2,000 miles bouncing around in the bottom of a tractor trailer? Well, then you're going to get cardboard tomatoes, and cardboard tomatoes can't defer nutrition. They certainly can't defer health. When all we're trying to develop is cultivars of cellulose. So creating this a habitat that allows each plant and animal to fully express its physiological distinctiveness, to respect it and honor it in its phenotypical zenith, is critical spiritually, emotionally, and physically for creating a food system that can feed us well enough that we in turn can reach our physiological, phenotypical, distinctiveness.
The lack of diversity in food and farming is basically creating a lack of diversity in thought. We've got some groupthink going on right now. We've got some mob rules. Seems like people are a little bit out of tune. They don't know who they are. They're individualistic. They don't know what they want. They don't know how to express themselves. And then, of course, this is also translating into the health of the human being with our current statistics at 70% obesity and overweight, 33% diabetes. And this may have changed. It's changing constantly since I've started my company. We've got 1 in 2 has cancer right now. This is not a proper expression of a human being. And so I see the lack of diversity of thought and the lack of diversity in farming. So is there a direct correlation, as above, so below, the natural laws at play here?
Well, yeah, and we see that in so many areas of life, don't we? I mean, for example, we know that at the soil horizon, for example, there's as much biomass below the ground as there is biomass above the ground. The plant maintains bilateral symmetry at the soil level, and when we go, only life can give life. I mean, we're now, for the first time in human history, we are routinely eating food that won't rot. If you squeeze Velveeta on your table and walk away for a week, it just sits there. What I want is a cheese. If I put the cheese on the table and walk away for a couple of days, I want it to get all fuzzy with mold, sprout legs, and walk off the table. Look, if it won't rot, it won't decompose. And so we are now literally taking in food that is shelf stable. I mean, ultra pasteurized milk that's shelf stable for 6 months. Listen, milk is not supposed to be shelf stable for 6 months. If it won't rot, it won't digest, it won't decompose. I ran into a couple wonderful ladies up in Northern California, and they were doing a farm program for a middle school district there. Had this little 2-acre farm. One of the things they did, they had this big earthworm bed. It looked about the size of a coffin. It was about 8 feet long and 3 feet wide and a couple feet deep. And one of the first, and it was a big worm bed. And one of the first assignments was that they told the kids to bring food in, next week. Kids brought food in, and the 2 teachers, they brought food. So the teachers brought, an apple, an orange, a homemade hamburger, not one from McDonald's, but a real one, and a carrot and a piece of celery. They put that over here in this end. The kids, they brought Cheerios, Twizzlers, Snickers bar, a hot pocket and put that over here. Next week, they all go charging up the hill. They open the top. They look in, and the kids pull out their Twizzlers and their Cheerios and their the food that they brought, their synthetic stuff, and over here they look for the apple and the orange and the hamburger, and they can't find anything. And the obvious question then that the teachers ask the students is, well, why would you want to eat something that even worms won't eat? And it made this wonderful lesson that we need to be eating things that microbes love to colonize, that worms love to eat, that love to digest. We should not be eating things that are sterile and ice cream that has antifreeze in it, and all of the sterilizing, stabilizing additives of processed food. All of that is about shelf stabilization, sterilization, and lack of decomposition.
Powerful. So on that same note, Joel, let's go into a little bit of your science and expertise. And I know you got to bale some hay today, so I got that in my crosshairs. A couple other good questions. I want to go deep here. So the gut microbiome directly connected to the soil. We carry our soil in here.
Yes.
How does that all break down? How does as above, so below, the farm, the soil, the brain, the thinking, the world we live in, break it all down for us, how Joel Salatin sees what's happening in the modern world. Then let's get into some solutions. We can talk about permaculture and biomimicry, really get it solution oriented, because I'm an eternal optimist, man. This is all just a catalyst for our own enlightenment and awakening. So gut microbiome.
I love it. Yeah. So in general, think about the environment that is the most conducive to vibrant life. And so obviously you want to get rid of the toxicity. So you get rid of the pesticides, herbicides, all that sort of thing. And we run everything on carbon. And so our animals, I'll just give you a couple of examples. Our animals, for example, they're running on this salad bar that we move every day along the salad bar. And so, we participated in a Mother Earth News food test several years ago, where they took about 12 of us pastured poultry farmers and sent our eggs to a food sciences lab, and took about 10 nutrients. One of them was folic acid, and the USDA label, for example, of folic acid is I think 48 micrograms per egg. That's on the actual, the egg carton that you buy in the supermarket. Our eggs here at Polyface averaged 1,038 micrograms per egg. So this is not a little 10% deviation. This is a completely, a completely separate thing. The ratios between polyunsaturated, saturated, and unsaturated fats is completely different. For example, our chicken, when you cook it, and the fat and the broth rises up, the top stays real soft, like vegetable shortening, as opposed to hard like Crisco, like hydrogenated oils, and so riboflavin is another big one. I mean, riboflavin in grass finished beef, for example, is 300%. That's 3 times more than in feedlot grain finished beef. Well, what's the importance of riboflavin? Well, riboflavin is one of the key nutrients to keep our nerves stable and keep us from being flying off the handle, being angry. Okay, mental calmness. And so is it any wonder that people are becoming more violent, divided, aggressive in our culture when they're not getting the riboflavin that they would get if they were getting, you know, grass finished meat, for example, instead of grain finished. They were getting grass finished. They'd get way more riboflavin, and then you wouldn't have so much road rage. You wouldn't have so much carrying on. One of the best ones I know is conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, and that is, of course, one of the #1 anti-carcinogens. And people wondered for a long time, why is it that in Argentina, where the average per capita consumption of red meat is 150 pounds per person per year. That's a lot of red meat. And they have half the American colon cancer rate. I thought red meat gave you colon cancer, all this stuff. Well, the difference is that in Argentina, it's grass-finished beef, and so it has very high conjugated linoleic acid in it. Conjugated linoleic acid is one of the #1 anti-carcinogens. And so I could go on and on and on, but it doesn't take much to start seeing these connections between between the way our food is produced and the reaction we actually get in our own body. And of course, now the study of epigenetics has increased the subtlety. It's increased the subtlety of, well, why do some genetic markers switch on and what do they switch off? Epigenetics, came after the Human Genome Project, when they thought, well, there were going to be 100,000 pairs on the DNA, and they only found like 24,000. And that launched this whole new study of epigenetics, which is a study, I call it the study of the hanky-panky on the DNA strand. So who's hooking up with who, and it is the subtleties. It is the subtleties of what's coming in our food. It's those subtleties that actually switch on and off the epigenetic channels. We have not begun to fully explore and understand and map those kinds of subtleties. So for me, I don't understand it. It's way beyond me. But the easy way to tap into the idea is to eat diversified and eat things that eat diversified. And so if you extend that diversification all the way down to the farm level, then what we want is well, for example, we just participated in a 2-year Smithsonian working landscape study, and found out that our farm has all 8 varieties of bumblebees known to exist in Virginia. We have all 8 of them here. Well, why? Well, because by moving these animals around all the time, it creates a mosaic on the landscape, which means something is always in bloom. There's something always blossoming. It's not a monocrop. It's not a monoculture. And so you literally increase the levels of pollinators. You increase the levels of songbirds. You increase the level of life as you increase the plant diversity on the ecosystem and on the landscape. That includes ponds. So we've built like 15 ponds. They have cattails, they have frogs and salamanders and fish, and places for the wood ducks to land, and the mallards and the geese, and now you have dragonflies that love, of course, to live on a pond. And what does all that mean? What does all that mean? Can you actually measure that in the greater system? Well, I don't know that you can measure the importance of a dragonfly to the value of a T-bone steak or or an egg. We certainly aren't that sophisticated, but as the more you dig into this, Troy, as you know, the more you dig into this, the more you realize, the more I know, the more I don't know,
right.
And the more beautiful, the more abundant, the more awesome, mystical, and amazing it all is. So anything we can do to bring that complexity and awesomeness to our landscape on the farm will move that awesomeness and complexity to the food we're producing.
And to the people, and to the intelligence. So what I'm
Yes.
getting from you is we dumb down the food, and that's dumbing down the population. It's decreasing our intelligence, our diversity of thought, our acceptance, our myelination of our nervous system and our ability without the proper riboflavin to handle stressors on our nervous system. We're
Right.
easier to lose our cool. We're easy to make poor decisions. So it's the old adage, pay now or pay later, pay the farmer or pay the doctor. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, I mean, all the others too, you know, you reap what you sow, you know, there's no free lunch and all the other related kinds of things. And for some reason, we have that mentality when it comes to, you know, buying computers and automobiles and clothing, but somehow we don't transfer that same mentality over to our food. And supposedly, you know, you're supposed to be able to drink, you know, 3 Mountain Dews a day and, you know, and stay healthy, or get, you know, the biggie fry at the fast food place or whatever. And we don't translate that down to the you know, to the farm level and the soil level.
Yeah, as above, so below. It's all connected, guys. We're all in symbiotic relationship. If people out there watching this want to go on a deeper dive, I think what you were talking about, the birds and the bees and the different species of bees, you know, the biodiversity. I do believe Sonic Bloom, they did a bunch of research on the frequency and vibration, the cacophony of sounds that go into the farmland, that go into it actually has a higher crop yield. Maybe we could spend a few minutes on soil science, crop yields, and then we're going into solutions, full steam ahead. Well,
so soil, of course, is what's different, is the only thing that's keeping us from starvation. And of course, we're depleting soils right now at a faster rate than we've ever been able to deplete them throughout human history. And that includes, by the way, desertification, where places are becoming drier and drier. And so again, it's all related. You can't reverse desertification without increasing vegetation, and you can't increase vegetation without hydration. And so you can't increase hydration without vegetation to exude the bacteria for water vapor to condense on. So it's and dry soil is unproductive soil. So the water, soil, vegetation cycle is all very important. My favorite reality of soil, well, I would just say 2 things. One is that it is more complex. There are some literally hundreds of thousands of organisms in the soil, and right now we've only actually named about 1,000 of them. So we right now our level of understanding is probably lower on soil even than it is on astronomy, and that should be pretty sobering. We're always looking out there. We need to look in for a change, and let's understand more of where we are before we decide to go, take our mentality somewhere else. So the soil is incredibly complex. I mean, from actinomycetes, mycelium, mycorrhizae, the gibberellins, I mean, the glomalin in soil, which is like the glue, to the earthworms. I mean, it's microbial, and there's this entire community of beings going on. I always think about it like the first Star Wars, where Luke Skywalker walks into that space cafe and he's looking for this transport vessel, and he meets Han Solo, and over in the corner there's all these these weird musicians playing 2 heads and 3 feet and all this stuff. And I imagine that in the soil, all these, aliens, weird things in the soil that are running an underground cafe. And so, one microbe walks up to another one and says, Hey, I got two elements of zinc here in my pocket. I'll trade you that for some polysaccharides, out of your root hairs. And so there's all this, it's literally an underground cafe going on where there are literally trillions of decisions per nanosecond being made on our behalf, on the planet's behalf. The second kind of word picture I'd like to paint for you, so that's one word picture. Another word picture is if you could somehow lower yourself with a microscope right below from the soil horizon and down, and be able to look into that like top 12 inches of soil, what on good soil, it would look like you're staring in to cathedrals. When we think of soil, we think of material. When you go to, like, if you go into a big cathedral, what strikes your thinking is not the material that's there, it's the lack of material. It's the fact these 40-foot vaulted ceilings, and it's the space. And so fertile, good soil is actually like cathedrals. It's actually more space than anything else, and that space is filled with water and oxygen and all of these microbes that are kind of slogging through like this big marshy cafe, and they're all interacting. They're eating each other. They're trading stuff. They're interacting. But these vaulted cathedrals in the ground, I just think that's a beautiful picture of being able to imagine the ground actually not as a bunch of physical aggregates, but actually as a bunch of space. And our job is to feed the carbon from the root exudates and carbon compost, whatever, but to feed enough carbon into that soil so that the structure of the cathedral can be maintained with the carbon, which then allows it to hold the oxygen and the water that offers a habitable place for all of the biological microbial activity that's going on. So think about soil as cathedrals.
Good. Now, can you elaborate a little bit on our soil science of today? That what did the growing of the wheat and the barley and the oats and only and the American bread bat, what has that done to our soil? How does that affect the water supply and the air? How is it all connected?
Sure. So what happens is, as in modern times, as we have moved through tillage and then chemicals, we burn out the organic matter. We burn out the carbon in the soil, which makes the soil more like concrete. So instead of having cathedrals, it's all just compressed like concrete, and there's no place for all this biological activity to occur. The second thing is that you kill off a lot of the life. So we have gone in our country, we have gone essentially from an average of about 6 or 7% organic matter nationwide to now about an average of 1% organic matter nationwide. And when you realize that 1% of organic matter holds 20,000 gallons of water per acre, you realize that collectively, as we drop our water retentive capacity, our sponginess, that's organic matter, okay? As we drop our sponginess down on this acreage, it means that if when the rain comes, we can't hold as much, and the entire amount of water in the sponge is less, which means rivers dry up, springs dry up, you simply can't hold it as much, which then means vegetation drops. So now we have to irrigate more. It's a treadmill. It's a treadmill toward disaster. And so monocropping and constant tillage and chemical agriculture has burned out the organic matter. By the way, on our farm, in half a century, we've gone from 1% to over 8% organic matter. So we're now holding more than 140,000 gallons of water per acre now that we couldn't hold in 1960. That's pretty cool. Okay. And you start adding that up over time, and it completely changes the entire ecology, our ecological womb. And so, our current system has depleted this organic matter, this carbon in the soil, and we essentially now view the soil as an inert substance that we inject chemical IV. We view the soil as a dead thing here, that we're just going to inject chemical IVs in and try to keep it alive. Now, you can keep somebody alive.
Is that part of the Newtonian mechanistic separation of the whole science that we got all doped up on?
Yes. It is very much a result of viewing life. This is a very Western reductionist idea. Extension of the Greco-Roman linear reductionist thinking, where we have now, instead of viewing life as biological, we view life as fundamentally mechanical. And that difference between a mechanistic and a biological view, there are lots of difference between the two. I mean, one is that machines don't think, biology does. But another one is that biology can heal and machines can't. If you don't lubricate the front bearing on your car and your bearing goes out, you can stop. You can apologize to that bearing. You can pray over it. You can do all. You want to rest? We'll rest for a day. You can do all sorts of things, and that bearing will still go thump 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 when you start going. But in life, in biology, you can make mistakes. You can you can have problems, and biologically, it can heal. Whether it's a wound on our skin, or whether it's an emotional wound we've given to somebody through improper, through something we said. For not having enough
riboflavin and losing your cookies.
Yeah, that's right. And so viewing life as fundamentally mechanical, as a bunch of compartmentalized, individualized widgets that we can take apart and refabricate like an extruded copper plumbing fitting. That's a very different view of life than viewing life as a fundamentally biological system that can think, that can react, that can heal, and that we can actually remediate, apologize to, if you will, and change our management, and it will respond in kind. I mean, that's just a beautiful reality between the two.
And that's great. And that's what my show is all about, is healing, health, and healing. So let's reel it right in, man. Then I'm going to cut you loose so you can go bale that hay. Healing. What have you seen since the movie came out, since people visit your farm, since people are getting this education? What type of spontaneous healing have you in in your community with your clients that come to your farm for the food as medicine? And then let's bring it home for healing the planet. Let's get into permaculture, biomimicry, and our solutions moving forward, Joel.
Yeah, so, I mean, when you've been in it as long as we have, you certainly see you get a lot of testimonies. You get a lot of testimonials from people, and we've seen everything from, critical, autism, literally almost moving clear off the spectrum as you change food. We've seen like little children that are finicky eaters. I can't get Johnny to eat anything, and he's a little 50-pound 7-year-old that just is anemic, and suddenly they start eating our eggs, and they eat 6 of them at a time, and just begin to develop, and their brain comes alive. We've seen people, we've seen a lot of, we service a lot of people with toxicity issues, environmental toxicity. It might be they have a reaction to the chlorine bath on the chicken. It might be they have a reaction to the residual glyphosate from GMO fed stuff. There's all sorts of issues. We actually, I don't want to start a big, getting a big row here on the show, but we have many recovering vegans whose cartilage started to break down, and they come to us, and maybe they can't have a child. Maybe they're having trouble with fertility, cartilage, muscular function, foggy heads, foggy brains, and their eyes are kind of sunken, and they start on this good food, and next thing you know, they're up walking around. I mean, I have several people that literally were bedfast 5 years ago, and now they can hike 5 miles. This is miracle stuff. It's not, it's not drugs. I mean, this is real life-changing stuff. And for people who are chronically ill and just can't get out of that path, to actually see what nutrient dense, full spectrum food can do, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, is truly profound. And we've just got a whole host of testimonials.
Awesome. And they're on your website?
Some are, but we don't make a big deal about all this as much as some. We're not huge shameless self-promoters, but I mean, there's plenty of stories.
Well, don't worry. I got that covered. I'm a egregious self-promoter because I'm promoting life affirmative principles. Somebody's got to get out there. I got to compete with the television commercials.
Yes, absolutely. Good for you. I have just written a book, Beyond Labels, with Dr. Sina McCullough, that kind of coaches people into healing foods, taking them wherever they are and moving them forward. So there's a lot of testimonials, also, stories and things in there. Yes.
Okay. So before we get into the permaculture and biomimicry, you brought up my last question, which is the vegan muscle wasting, deterioration, cognitive function. I see a ton of it in my clinical practice for a very long time, comes across the internet all the time. I rescue malnourished vegans. I was a malnourished vegan myself. So let's talk a little bit about that spiritually, because somehow people think that that's an elevated level of, spiritual advancement. Life eats life is the closed organic cycle. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that there's a huge misnomer, and I'm not sure if it's a eugenics policy or what's going on, but people are like, veganism is the solution for everything. And people will marginalize my work if I'm not a vegan. So please speak a little bit on that and tie it into the closed organic cycle.
Sure. So the truth is that everything is eating and being eaten. And if you don't believe it, go lie naked in your flower bed for 3 days and see what gets eaten. In order for there to be life, something has to die. Now, whether that's a carrot or a cow, and I'm not suggesting that a cow is the same as a carrot, but I will tell you that when you start down this path of sentience, the truth is that everything in the cosmos is pulsing with sentience. There's not a stupid carrot. There's not a stupid tomato or a stupid oak tree or a stupid cow. Everything is pulsing with intelligence, and everything is communicating. I mean, the fact that the acacia trees on the Serengeti emit a pheromone that that goes upwind and makes the phytochemicals change in the leaves so they get bitter so the giraffes won't eat them. If that's not sentience, I don't know what is. And I could keep going at a long time, but as we've studied now, we now know that there's an entire language of plants. There's even a language of our microbes in our own gut. There's a language that they communicate each other in this commerce, in this transfer of nutrient and thought process. So everything is sentient, everything is eating and being eaten. And so if you think that we can have life without death, that does not indicate a new level of evolutionary nirvana spiritual heightening. It actually indicates a profound devolution in ignorance about the fundamental building blocks and functioning of life. This is not a new, place where I've gone to, to become spiritually elevated. It's a profound devolution of spiritual ignorance. This is not a bad thought. The fact, you mean for me to live, something has to die? Yes, that's right. Something has to die for me to live. And what that means is the sacredness of life, the mystery of life becomes elevated to a new place. So how do we take the death and move it to a place of sacredness? How do we keep from desecrating the death of the carrot, the death of the chicken, the death of the cow? How do we not desecrate that and move that to a place of sacredness? And I would suggest that the way we do that is to respect that animal or plant in a way that allows it to fully find and achieve its phenotypical and physiological expressiveness in life, and that will create the sacredness of the sacrifice in death that it will then use to feed something else. It's when we cheapen life. It's when we cheapen life, throw it in a factory farm, douse it with chemicals, give it a very simple and incomplete diet of chemicals and fumigants and pesticides. It's when we desecrate the value of that life, that is when the sacrifice, the death, becomes sacrilege as opposed to sacred.
So what you're saying ultimately is our farming and living and modern day practices is sacrilege. Is that it's
yes, yes, absolutely. I would absolutely say that, and I would say that had we not moved, for example, to factory farming, it would not have fueled this fire. Another thing too is you got to realize that the average person has never hunted. They've never participated viscerally in this cycle. And the only animal the average person has ever been acquainted with is a pet dog or a pet cat. And so the only animal connection anybody has is in terms of a pet. And you got to realize in history, historically, up until the today, when we actually have the luxury as rich people to sit around and have focus groups and talk about whether we should eat a cow or not, our ancestors, if you could catch it, shoot it, trap it, and get it and eat it, you lived another day. The very notion that as a culture we have the luxury of being able to sit around and have discussions on whether or not we can we should eat a chicken is profoundly inhuman historically. This is a trajectory our ancestors could never have gone down because they were always 24 to 48 hours away from hunger, and so being able to have real-time nutrition, milk from a cow, egg from a chicken, being able to have cured pork without refrigeration, being able to have real-time nutrition. Believe me, when Daniel Boone went out through Kentucky, he didn't take squash and watermelon on his horse. He took jerky and pemmican and, real, nutrient dense stuff. And the Lewis and Clark expedition, they lived off of the land. And that's the way our ancestors lived. And so this whole question is not a new question of spiritual revelation. It's a new a question of spiritual devolution about our attachment to our ecological umbilical.
Wow, that's extremely profound. I just got a clip from my Instagram. That was great. That's some deep stuff, man. You guys might want to rewind that, re-listen to that. All right, let's get into our solutions. I'm an eternal optimist. And let's bring this into real time, right? We got coronavirus. We've got shutdown, lockdown, businesses closed. I mean, I don't know who's planting seeds on the farm. I don't know if the farms are locked down. How do we move forward from here? Let's tie it into, solutions, Polyface Farms. Where do you stand with permaculture and the laws of biomimicry, which state life creates conditions conducive for life?
Yeah. So, oh boy, that's such a big thing. I am a fan of permaculture. Absolutely. So if we start from a imagine we were hovering here in a drone over a landscape. What we want to see is we want to see a lot of edge. So we want to see forest, open land, and riparian, and more edge, because edge is where abundance is. Most life requires two of those environments, forest and open and riparian, those three great environments. Most things require plants and animals. The abundance is on the edges, okay? And so we want to diversify that landscape, forest, open land, and riparian. Number two, we want forest that is not crowded, not weedy. And so we want to continue to steward those trees so that the crookeds and the junks and the poor stems are culled out, and the vibrant, healthy, good stems grow. So as permaculture says, we have more forest but fewer trees. And then we use those trees as part of our biomass project, creating a carbon economy, so that we do composting, so that composting completely replaces chemical fertilization. Imagine if every dollar spent on chemical fertilizer were spent on biomass regeneration on farms. We would build our organic matter, reduce flooding, reduce droughts, increase earthworms, and increase the nutrient density of whatever we grow. And we would have an entire industry in the U.S. devoted to the sacred work of building legacy soil for the next generation. Right now, one of the biggest problems in our culture is, what do we do with people who want to have calluses and splinters on their hands and work outside? We marginalize them with terms like blue collar and whatever, non-college educated, whatever. And 40% of the population actually doesn't want to spend all day sitting in front of a cubicle, a Dilbert cubicle at the end of an expressway, working for some, cyber outfit. Actually, we actually like to touch things, feel things, and get calluses on our hands. So how do you affirm the soul, affirm the life, the validity of these folks? Well, imagine mommy and daddy come home from work, and the daughter asks, little Amy says, well, what did you guys do all day? And they get to say, we created chips today from struggling, unhealthy trees so that we could run composting programs on farms to build organic matter and earthworms so that there will be enough soil to feed you nutrient-dense food as you get older. What could be more sacred and righteous and noble than that? And so we desperately need that level of thoughtful stewardship into our ecology. Then we're going to shut down every single factory farm. We don't need a single one. We don't need any beef feedlots. We're going to quit feeding herbivores grains. They're going to be herbivores and eat like herbivores always had, which is grass and forages. and that's going to shoot their, you know, their nutritional profile, their omega-3, omega-6s, and all that's going to go through the roof. It's going to be right. It's going to be like wildlife again, and we're going to create, and all of that is going to reduce tillage, reduce chemical fertilizers, build cathedrals in the soil to hold more water, and the chickens are going to be on pasture. They're going to be moved around, and the eggs are going to be on pasture, and the gardens that we have, the vegetables that we produce, are going to be integrated close to where people are. You simply can't afford to ship water that far across the country. The fact that we're shipping mescaline mix from California to Vermont is just ludicrous. You cannot spend that kind of money shipping that perishable an item, that much water across the country. So what we're going to have is we're going to have our gardens with our watery stuff. Listen, I love lettuce. I love kale and watermelon and cantaloupe. So that is going to be near our urban sectors, even in our cities. And we're going to take the 35 million acres of urban lawn in the U.S., 35 million acres of lawn, and that is going to become produce for watery produce, so it doesn't have to be shipped everywhere. Then we're going to put a solarium on the south side of every house north of the frost line, and that solarium is going to offer passive heat, and we can grow all of our winter herbs and our cabbage and broccoli all through the winter. Nothing has to be shipped. So the petroleum currently used to truck every morsel of food 1,500 miles is now, that petroleum is used for plastic and solarium covers on every building and every institution throughout North America, and the northern climes can produce their lettuce and cool hardy, you know, brassicas and things in the wintertime in their own house on site. And then we're going to have kitchen chickens. So every household's going to have 2 or 3 chickens. You know, you might have a dog, you might have a cat, I don't care. But if you have to trade one for 3 chickens, that's a good trade. And these chickens are going to eat your table scraps, give you a couple of eggs a day. Now you don't have to put them out in the garbage. They don't fill up the landfill. So now we reduce our landfill biomass flow by 50%. We don't even have factory egg farms at all. We don't have to transport eggs anywhere. And we integrate the waste stream and the production stream in situ. And guess what? If you've got a teenager in the house, there is not a better role model for teenagers than chickens. Chickens get up early in the morning, every morning. They're the first animal that wakes up. Pigs don't. Pigs sleep in. But chickens wake up really early, and they're always happy, and they spend all day turning trash into treasure, working hard. As soon as the sun starts to go down, they go to bed. What better role model for teenagers? They jump up in the morning happy, they work all day happy, and then as soon as the sun goes down, they go to bed. They don't go out on prowling through the town, getting into mischief all night. So, you know, there's all sorts of cool family, you know, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual elements to this whole, you know, description that I've kind of put through. But yes, we know how to do all this stuff. This is not beyond our understanding. It's just that it's so convenient. It's so convenient with cheap energy and pharmaceuticals. It's convenient to simply crush our way through life, kicking the can down the road, letting our grandchildren pick up the tab. And I'm suggesting it's time to step up to the plate and create a legacy that we don't have to apologize to our grandchildren about, that we can be proud that we have developed a new ecological nest of regeneration and sustainability, that our grandchildren, instead of being angry at what grandma and grandpa did, they can be proud of what grandma and grandpa did. That's a legacy.
Hallelujah, man. Hallelujah. And that's my first principle in my book is legacy, dream, purpose, getting people figured out, roadmap in the direction that they want to go from their heart's desire. All right, Joel, man, you are amazing. I'm so glad I reached out to you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your work in the world. Thank you for your legacy work. How can people support you? Books, website, farm, This is your egregious self-promotion moment.
Self-promotion. All right. Well, you can certainly, buy. I've written the book number 14 will be out in about a month, and so I've written a lot of books. Those are there for you. You can buy our food if you're having trouble finding good stuff. Don't let, I can't find this. No. It's available. We ship. You go onto our website, polyfacefarms.com, and it's all there, and we'll ship it to you, and it's just fabulous. You can certainly, when I'm out speaking somewhere, when that ever opens up again and we have conferences again, come and hear that. And please come to the farm. We have a 24/7, 365 open door policy for anyone to come at any time from anywhere in the world to see anything, anywhere, anytime, unannounced. That's our commitment. That's our commitment. Yeah. That's our commitment to transparency. And so if you think what I've been telling is a bunch of, fluff,
hokey pokey.
Just come and walk the fields. And, if I'm in bed, don't wake me up, but come and help yourself. And we're very open to, to having people come and participate in this with us.
Okay, awesome. And so ultimately, guys, this is all about voting with your dollars, really putting your money where your mouth is, putting your money into your own healing medicine. Food is medicine, according to some very learned people, the father of modern day medicine. So support Joel, support his work, buy his books, watch the interview with Paul Chek and him. I know that was very dynamic in the social media world. It goes deep, and it juxtaposed Paul's work as well, because Paul comes from sports fitness. So all this stuff is like, you want a high performance athlete? Well, you better get down with the quality of your food. So God bless you, Joel. We'll be connected. I'm going to send you out a hardcover of the book, and let's stay in touch, man.
Yes. Thank you, Troy. It's been a delight and an honor. Thank you so much. Yes. Come see us when you get on the East Coast.
I'll just make a trip straight out, bring my kids, go on tour with my book, and I'll just drive straight out to Virginia. So I don't have to wait till I'm on the East Coast. Thank you so much, Joel. We'll see you soon. I'll let you know when this is out.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Okay. God bless. God bless.
You too.